Now, we see in another news report a viral video of a Chinese trader lamenting the state of his Cameroonian client. It has once again thrown the spotlight on the worsening economic crisis in La République du Cameroon under the aging dictator Paul Biya, who at 92 years old is still seeking yet another 7 years term in office. In the video, the Chinese man expresses visible frustration and confusion after realizing that his longtime Cameroonian customer, who used to buy second-hand clothes in bulk, has now been unable to place an order in over 2 years. Each time he tries to reach out, the client gives the same painful reason that things are hard, inflation is killing, and he can barely pay his bills. Perplexed by his client's unending struggle and complaints of economic downslide, the trader decided to look up the country's leadership only to discover that the so-called president has ruled for over 4 decades and is now 92, yet still determined to stay in power. In this belief, the Asian man questioned what a 92-year-old wants with power when his people cannot even afford basic needs. Now, before we get into that video, let's say good evening to Barrister Mbeseha, because it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Barrister Mbeseha, to be sure you're connected. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. So before we get into that video, before we get into the discourse rather, we'll take a look at this video of this Asian man making this complaint. And we've already read of the state of Amazonian roads, which are terrible. The economy poor, roads dilapidated, everything going downslide. But then we still see President Paul Biya clinging to power. Here is what this Asian merchant had to say about his discovery of Cameroon's leadership. Let's take a quick listen and we'll get back to you.
Hey, fam, check this out. What our 90 years old still do? Look at this guy, do you know him? Cameroon President Paul Biya, 92 years old, not 29. He's running for another 7 years terms. Finish this one and he will be 99. I don't get what these brothers thinking at 92. Most of the folks cannot even take care of themselves. But he's out here chasing the presidency again. This one been ruling Cameroon for over 42 years old now. Rose is 40. And he's been presidency longer than I've been alive. I didn't know before, but now it's click. Why my Cameroon clients finish audit second-hand clothes from Mr. Ross for 7 years straight, but the last 2, nothing. Every time I hit him up, hey bro, what's good? He's like, market is trash, tariff is too high, competitions, killing it, no profits. I didn't buy it. Now I see. With Cameroon 30 million people stuck under this shameless, powerful, hungry guy treating the countries like he is a personal player around. How is the economic supposed to grow? Higher tariffs, fierce competition, in import like used clothes is all tied to bad leadership, stifling business, and get this, I mean his own doctor calling him out on TikTok, blasting him for the suffering poverty, for stagnation after those years. He's urging folks not to voting for him. God, please stop this crazy old man at 92. It's time to retire. Rest up and let the next generation to take the wheel. What do you think, fan?
Now I ask that question now to you, Barrister Mbeseha. Listening to that video, what do you think?
Well, I think it is good that we have the audio coming from someone else, not even an African, talk less of being a Cameroonian. It looks crazy. It is unimaginable that somebody, even if he's not 83 years, if he's 93 years old, somebody who has been in power for 40 years plus, older than that young man speaking there, would still be craving for power. What type of power he wants, nobody knows. But I think that is rare in the world. To the best of our knowledge and on the record, this man is the oldest serving president in the world, in the whole world. And that Asian man talking like that, it's not about business. His connection to Cameroon is a business guy. He's trying to do business with some Cameroonian who perhaps was born after Mr. Paul Biya was in power, got to power. So who else can tell the story better than us? If I said it, or you and me say it here, they say we hate him because we are Anglos, we are Ambazonians. If somebody in Cameroon says it like Kamto, they say it's a Bamileke guy, they don't like him. Like Chirima, they say he's a Mboro man, he's an Hausa guy. And so on and so forth. But the story coming from a stranger's own mouth only goes to lend credit to what everybody is saying. Then you go down and ask, if you go to read in his mind, the mind of the president, what does the president really want? At 93, the next step is that he must die. And so, since death is so near, very few people reach the age of 100. But I'm sure it looks like he's even more than 100. Because when he was born, no records were kept of his birth. So it's close to 100. Few human beings live up to that. But even if he's getting to 100 and still wants to be president, one must conjecture, what does this man want? I think the only thing he wants is to have a state funeral. Because if he dies tomorrow, he'll be given a state funeral. What is a state funeral? A state funeral is grandeur. People will come with planes. They will invite foreign heads of states. They will come and drink and eat and do whatever thing when they want. The president will no longer be there. He cannot even be able to read his own speech. He will not be there. He is deceiving himself, like most of us. That when you are buried in grandeur, you probably carry your grandeur to heaven. No, you're dead. You're dead. What people are doing to bury you is for the people who are living. The dead don't eat. The dead don't talk. The dead don't roll. And so it is unfortunate that it is a world event. It has ceased to be a national event. It is a world event to see that somebody 90-something years old is fighting for another 7-year term. It has never occurred anywhere else in the world. Never. The last we know is President Mugabe, when he was 92, 93. But he was not even looking for a 7-year term, he was looking for 4. He didn't even succeed. And so I think what that guy has said in raw language is what every Cameroonian should say, is what every African should say, is what every human being should say. But, curious enough, the people who matter are silent. Among them, President Macron of France. Macron of France, when this man got to power, I think he was just about 8 or 2 old. He was a baby. If he was African, he was still suckling his mother's breast. But he has grown up today as the president of France, who has the power to tell this guy to keep quiet, to move away, if that is what is necessary. But they are not saying it. And so you must wonder what world we live in. You must wonder what all this Africa is about. 2 days ago or so, we were talking about Africa, African forest, African whatever. The white man has taken all this, African riches. Africa, this is Africa. The African leaders are silent. Sometimes the truth is bitter, but must be told. I did tell this guy the truth. If they told him the truth, he thinks he can resist the world. He must be a superhuman being. And so it is sad, very, very sad. Not because we don't expect anything from him. It is so sad that even at that age, he should still be looking for a 7-year term. 93, 7 years makes you 100. He has already beaten the record. Nobody has ever rolled up to that length. Even in China, with one party, nobody has ever handled power for that long length of time. Not even whoever is not available. And so I'm sorry for the Cameroonians who are our neighbors. If they have the record of the worst things on earth, They are beating the Guinness record of presidents living for life, presidents serving for more than half a century, not because they are elected, but because they are appointed. Not because they just appointed, they are being defended with the guns, but with the taxpayers' money. Which taxpayer cannot find water to drink? Which taxpayer does not even have lights? Which taxpayer has no road even to drive a bicycle on it? It's shame, it's sad, shame unto Cameroon, shame unto Africa, shame unto France. Over to you.
Well, Barrister Mbeseha, it's such a shame. Well, we see that frustration of these completely non-Cameroon person, an Asian man, his frustration indeed mirrors the anguish of millions across the Cameroons who have watched their economy collapse under Biya's suffocating rule. Now, this moment of truth from an unlikely voice, a foreign trader thousands of miles away, reflects a global acknowledgement of a regime that has long overstayed its welcome. The trader's simple plea: let the young people lead, let the next generation lead. It now echoes across the continent, resonating deeply with Cameroonians and Amazonians alike who have suffered decades of economic ruin, suppression, repression, corruption, and leadership decay. The once thriving small businesses, markets, and local industries have been crippled by inflation, poor governance, and a currency system still tied to France's colonial grip. Even those who once found creative means to survive, like the trader's client, they are now sinking under the weight of poverty. 2 years without any patronage, a visible sign that the regime's promises have failed entirely. With presidential elections recently held, an octogenarian, now nonagenarian Paul Biya yet again on the ballot. The atmosphere in La République is quite tense. Opposition candidate Isachi Roma Bakari has already declared victory, claiming to have won in several regions, though citizens wait in skepticism for the official results to be released on Thursday, October 23rd. But beyond the ballot and political drama, the message is loud and clear. The world is watching, and even foreigners now see what Cameroonians have long endured: an exhausted nation led by a man too old to govern, yet too power-hungry to let go. For Amazonians, this stands as further proof of a crumbling colonial system that has exploited and silenced the people for decades. The cries for change are no longer whispers from within, they have become global. Barrister Mbeseha, now while many are calling for younger generation, the younger leadership to replace Paul Biya's decade-old regime, some Cameroonians and other people around the world are starting to argue that the problems seem to run deeper than even age, that even young leaders in the system today already exhibit the same traits of corruption and self-interest. In your view, is Cameroon's leadership crisis really about age, or is it more about a mindset that has been passed down through the same corrupt political culture?
No, it is not about age. It's not about age. Because if you were about age, it's such a Roma who is trying to replace this guy, who is challenging this guy. He's getting to 80 years old. In a normal country, very few people at 80 were looking for power. So it's not about age. It's about this whole principle. That's what I said earlier, that even if this man had served if he was only 30, 50, 60, the fact of having served 8 terms, 7 terms, or 7 years is enough for you to go away. Because they have the bigger problem, or the biggest problem with Cameroon in particular, and maybe some parts of Africa in general, is the transformation of the national cake into a personal glory. The presidency of the republic is a national. It comes with advantages. Those privileges are privileges of the nationals. No one individual should ever confiscate those things for himself or for herself. No matter how good you claim to be, there comes a time that you let others have the same enjoyment. It's a national cake. It's a national thing. The nation is different from you, the individual. Call yourself Paul Biya or anybody. You are not the nation. There are other people in that country that would also like to enjoy the privileges of that office, just naturally. And so you have to leave, not because you're old. You have to leave because you have taken your turn. As simple as that. I always remember how when Obama got the office here in the United States, he was a very young man. He could have been still been in office today because he's not even off to have the age of Paul Biya. He's like Biya's first son. He served his 8 years and he had to go. Let that office go to someone else. That's just the principle. No matter your good performance or your bad performance, someone else must replace you. Because we're criticizing him, we cannot compare one thing. There's always comparison of two things. You cannot compare whether the country would have developed better or not with Paul Biya alone. Let someone else come there. And then we compare that person's job, performance, with the previous one. That's just the basic natural principle. So if it's just enjoying the red carpet, walking on the red carpet, followed by your wife in red or in green or in black, that is a privilege that other citizens should be given the opportunity to enjoy. That's just that. That's my take about it. Over to you.